Have you ever wondered what kind of barbarous acts the emperors of China have committed? In this video, we will focus on the extreme abuse of women by the Chinese emperors during their reign. From drinking and murder to incest and sadistic games, these rulers spared no one, including their own family members. Brace yourself for a journey into the dark side of China's history. For almost 4,000 years, China has been an enduring civilization, credited with some of the world's most significant inventions, including the compass, gunpowder, paper, and printing. Nevertheless, this is also the place where despicable emperors have reigned, authorizing and committing unimaginably savage and barbarous acts. Gao Yang, a notorious alcoholic, ruled northern Qi from 529 to 559. Despite starting off well by improving the military and lowering taxes, he became a terrible drunk. Nevertheless, his reign saw northern Qi prosper and become a leading kingdom in China. Yang's increasing involvement in his favorite hobby marked a celebration of the land's newfound stability. But his excessive drinking in later years led him to spiral into madness and depravity. His desire for women even drove him to have an affair with his wife's sister. Yang, consumed with envy, made her former lover and Chinese prince Gaowei end his life, and then executed her and turned her leg into a fiddle, parading her head at his dining table. His prime minister kept a supply of prisoners for Yang's drunken murders. Yang was disrespectful to his mother, Empress 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗥𝗘𝗠𝗘, and even threatened to marry her off to a barbarian. After upsetting her, he promised to stop drinking, but only lasted 10 days before returning to his old habits. 𝗘𝗵𝗶, the entitled Yuan monarch crowned at 13, had the longest reign. His chancellor Bayan proposed executing 90% of the population, specifically those with the top 5 Chinese names. In the 1340s, 𝗘𝗵𝗶 created a water clock and a pleasure boat for his lake, while floods and epidemics raged through his realm. However, his disinterest in politics led to his capture in 1368 by the Chinese rebel Zhou Wanzhang, founder of the Ming dynasty. 𝗘𝗵𝗶 died in Mongolia in 1370. Sun Hao, ruler of China from 242 to 284, was both inept and cruel, murdering those who opposed him. Initially, he governed well, but soon became uninterested in his duties and instead focused on wine, women, and death sentences. Hao had an extreme fixation on making the most beautiful women in his kingdom his concubine, and he searched for them in the families of his officials. He implemented a rule that all mandarins must present their daughters to him before any marriage so he could choose to add her to his harem. Hao was fiercely protective of his female slaves and once ordered an execution of an official who scolded the maid of one of his favored concubines for stealing. Additionally, Hao had a frightening habit of excessively drinking and would punish officials who refused to join in. Those who did not partake would often face the consequences of losing their life or being thrown in a river to drown. At times, Hao exhibited leniency and refrained from taking their lives, opting instead to disfigure their faces in a ghastly manner while they were alive. He did not spare even his own family from his lethal wrath. This was evident when a fierce rivalry arose between his two sons, Sun He and Samba. To quell the conflict, he commanded Samba to take his own life and banished Sun He to a different region to prevent any further disturbances. Liu Zhi's time in a prominent position was very brief, only spanning 364 days, and he exhibited a significant amount of insecurity as a ruler. He perpetually suspected his family members of planning a coup against him, leading to a reign marked by bouts of violence against his extended kin due to his paranoia. Initially, he compelled his younger brother and competitor for the throne, Lu Wan to take his own life before killing his two successors. Subsequently, he massacred all the loyalists of the former emperor who had served him before. 𝗘𝗫𝗧 had an unusual attraction to his family members and engaged in incestuous relationships with them. He was highly suspicious of them, and on one occasion he forced his aunt Lu Mingmi to satisfy his lust, leading him to kill his uncle 𝗘𝗵𝗵𝗲, who had conspired against him. As a keepsake, he stored his uncle's eyes in honey and referred to them as pickled ghost eyes. Zai also shared a bed with his sister Lu Shuzhu, whom he granted numerous suitors after she complained about his many concubines. Zai enjoyed group sex and took pleasure in matching up the princesses of his court with his attendants. Zai's wrongdoing became intolerable for his uncle Lu, who was the prince of Zhongdang. As a result, he ordered Zai's assassination to prevent any further harm. During his reign from 1075 to 1046 BC, King Zhou of the Shang dynasty was an unprecedented and cruel leader who took pleasure in the suffering of others. However, he is best known for his lush and delectable royal gardens. Zhao had vast quantities of wine and meat constructed on his palace grounds, allowing him and his friends to indulge in the finest food and drink at their leisure. While in his canoe surrounded by red wine, Zhao entertained himself by playing twisted and sadistic games. One such game involved ordering his naked eunuchs and concubines to consume the delicious treats while frolicking in pairs until sunset. When bored, he would randomly select a pair to beat mercilessly, throwing their broken bodies into a cart known as the pulp trough. Zhao practiced an additional death ritual referred to as the punishment of burning flesh with a hot iron. All prisoners, regardless of their status, were required to embrace a hollow bronze cylinder that had been heated internally by charcoal, leading to a torturous death. His family members were not spared from his disturbed behavior. Even his uncle and distinguished scholar Bo Ying faced his wrath when he criticized Zhao's actions, resulting in Zhao having his chest open to examine whether a wise person had a compassionate heart. During her reign from 690 to 705, Wu Zetian became the sole female ruler of China. Her actions demonstrated that she was equally as ruthless as her male counterparts. In her quest for ultimate power, she eliminated her infant daughter and falsely accused Empress Wang of the crime to marry the emperor. She further secured her position by killing Wang through wine drowning and later poisoning her husband to declare herself empress. Without hesitation, she commenced the eradication of all of her foes, erasing 15 familiar bloodlines in a single year. Some of them were instructed to take their own lives before her very eyes. Her personal, bone-chilling secret police were instrumental in her endeavors, utilizing a network of spies to uncover any potential adversaries. When not disseminating the upper echelons of society, she indulged in the company of her male concubines. In her later years, she appointed 2 of her favorite paramours to preside over the court, which ultimately devolved into a debaucherous playground of gambling, imbibing, and unbridled prostitution. Wu Zetian stood out from her male counterparts in one aspect. She abided peacefully in 705, something they did not achieve. The emperors of China were known to be violent and insane, with the ability to make their darkest desires come to life with a word or gesture. Their power corrupted them, leaving behind a legacy of murder, incest, and indulgent excess. As we conclude our discussion of the extreme abuse of women by Chinese emperors during their reign, we cannot help but wonder, how did Chinese society perceive the abuse of women during the reign of these emperors? We hope that by shedding light on these dark moments in history, we can learn from them and work towards a better future. What are your thoughts on the topic? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching Historical Records Punishments. Don't forget to subscribe for more fascinating stories and facts about cruel and unusual punishments throughout history. Stay tuned for our next video, and until then,